The film begins with an elderly woman living in isolation with her sick husband. Her husband is gravely ill and she must care for him alone. One day, as the old woman works in her room, she suddenly hears a noise from another part of the house. Rushing to her husband, she finds him unchanged, but then a chilling sound reaches her ears. A wolf howling from outside. The howl sends a wave of terror through her, and she notices her wolves, too, are frightened, running about in chaos. Something is wrong. It is an evil spirit, a drowning soul, that has entered the farm. Later, as the woman works in the kitchen, a chair behind her suddenly moves on its own, confirming her worst fear. The spirit is nearby. The next day, her children, Louis and Michael, come to visit, but their relationship with their mother is strained. It is clear they haven't been close, and there is no real understanding between them. The old woman, feeling the weight of her torment, tells them to leave, but doesn't reveal the truth: that an evil spirit has taken residence in their home, threatening their family. At night, Louis and Michael sit outside, reflecting on their busy lives. They realize they have neglected their parents and forgotten how much love and care their mother and father needed. The next morning, Louis closes the door, only to find it opening on its own. The air grows heavy, and Louis feels a presence, a spirit, which only she can see. During dinner, the old woman warns Michael that there is something evil in the house, and that they should leave. But Michael brushes off her warnings, dismissing her words as nonsense. Later, while his mother works in the kitchen, another chair moves, making her cry out in fear. Exhausted, she clutches a knife, her nerves fraying. The following morning, Louis and Michael are horrified to find that their mother has taken her own life. They are devastated as they prepare her body for the authorities. Both siblings fall into deep shock, their grief palpable as they sit silently by their father's side. Meanwhile, a neighbor expresses his sorrow for the mother's tragic death, hinting that something unnatural may have been at play. A nurse who cared for their father reveals something unsettling. She often overheard their mother talking to someone in private, as if she were speaking to a person who wasn't there. This news hits Louis hard, making her realize how much their parents had suffered in isolation. Filled with regret, Louis takes it upon herself to care for her father, but things only grow more bizarre. When she enters her mother's sewing room, she finds a gown. Her mother had been making it for a wedding, a cruel reminder of how much had been left undone. Later, while Louis is bathing, she hears footsteps in the bathroom. She calls out, "Michael, is that you?" but receives no answer. Terrified, she draws the curtain and finds her father standing there in a strange, unnatural state. Her father's face is twisted, his eyes vacant. Shaking, Louis screams in terror and closes her eyes, hoping it's a nightmare. But when Michael comes to check, he finds nothing. When he checks on their father, he finds him sleeping, just as he had been before. Despite what Louis saw, she decides to ignore it. Michael, eager to get supplies, goes out, but before leaving, he checks on his father once more. He finds their mother's diary beneath their father's bed and shares it with Louis. They start reading the disturbing entries, which reveal that their mother had known the spirit was slowly taking over their father. She spoke of hearing the spirit's voice and feeling its presence, and it was clear that she had been begging for help long before her death. Louis breaks down in tears, now understanding the true horror they are dealing with. As they continue reading, they recall various strange occurrences in the house, trying to make sense of the unexplainable events. Desperate for answers, they visit the doctor who examined their mother's body. The doctor hands them a cross he found in her pocket, an item that puzzles them, as their mother was never religious. Louis and Michael feel a growing sense of unease as the pieces of the puzzle begin to fit together. Later that night, as Louis takes care of her father, he begins coughing violently, and to her horror, a spider crawls out of his mouth. Louis tries to catch it, but Michael enters just in time to calm her, insisting that everything is fine. However, the unsettling events only escalate. Michael, going to his room to sleep, finds the light flickering on its own. He looks up to see his mother floating in midair, smiling eerily at him. When the light goes out, her voice starts to echo from the room. Michael checks, but finds nothing. He feels the presence of something terrible but refuses to believe it. Meanwhile, Louis discovers strange marks on their father's body, along with lipstick smeared in odd places. It's as though something or someone is manipulating their father. The tension grows further when Louis receives a phone call. It's her mother's voice, but it's a recording. Michael is still processing the strange occurrences when he meets a man who claims to know their mother. The man insists their mother visited him frequently, offering assistance. He hands them his number, telling them to call if they need help. This only deepens their suspicions that something supernatural is at work. After the man leaves, Michael contacts his wife and children, feeling overwhelmed with grief and longing. Louis, in the meantime, continues reading her mother's diary. Suddenly, she hears glass breaking. She believes Michael might have broken something, but when she looks, she notices an ominous shadow lurking in the house. At that moment, Louis realizes the truth. Her mother was right. The spirit has taken root in their home. The evil is not just a figment of their imagination. In a desperate attempt to protect themselves, the siblings begin to realize that the spirit can assume different forms. Their neighbor calls them, hoping to help, but when he sees Louis, he realizes that she isn't the real Louis. It's the spirit taking on her form, and it's come to claim him too. The neighbor, horrified, tries to defend himself, but the spirit forces him to end his life, just as it had done to their mother. The following morning, Louis and Michael are left to ponder the awful truth. They find signs that their father has been wandering outside the house, but no solid evidence confirms his involvement in the strange occurrences. Still uncertain, they decide to send him to the hospital. But when Louis calls their father for more information, he responds with confusion, stating he has never met their mother or them. Shocked, Louis learns that her father had once had a daughter named Louis, who ended her life years ago. This revelation rattles her, and she quickly hangs up, fearing that she is somehow connected to the spirit. Feeling desperate, Louis and Michael consult a doctor about sending their father to the hospital. But the doctor warns them that he may not survive the journey. The nurse, who has been tending to their father, tells them that he needs their love to survive, just as their mother once did. But things get worse when they visit the farm and find many dead animals brutally torn apart. This isn't the work of wolves. The spirit has made its presence known. Michael, overcome with emotion, vows to protect his family and says he will stay with them. He tries to save a pregnant animal, but the spirit appears in the form of his mother, whispering in his ear. The spirit tries to manipulate him, but Michael finds the strength to resist, narrowly avoiding a tragic fate. That night, Louis dreams of the spirit closing in on her. She wakes to find her father gone, and when she searches for him, she discovers that he has been stuck to the ceiling in a horrific display. Her scream echoes in the empty house, but when morning arrives, she finds Michael has disappeared as well. The neighbor's granddaughter arrives, but Louis quickly realizes that she is not who she claims to be. It's the spirit once again taking on another form. In a final act of terror, the nurse suddenly attacks Louis, stabbing her with sharp objects. Louis struggles to stop her, but the nurse knocks her unconscious and continues to stab her mercilessly. When Michael returns to find his family gone, he is overcome with grief. Unable to cope with the loss, he takes his own life. But in his last moments, he sees his family alive once more. This is the work of the spirit trying to break him. As Michael dies, he realizes that he too was manipulated. Louis, still grieving, hears her mother's voice one final time. The spirit, now fully in control, emerges from her father's body, and in a heartbreaking twist, it ends Louis' life as well. With that, the entire family is lost to the abyss of death. The evil spirit, having been promised their souls by their mother, now consumes them all. The house, once a home, is now a place of eternal darkness.